Hello and greetings to you. My name is Anthony Altman, and I welcome you to my new video here broadcast from sunny, warlike, war zone Israel. With the today is rather quiet, but up until today, we've had bombs and artillery and rockets and drones flying over us and around us and exploding. And to be honest with you, my wife and I never know from one moment to the next whether we're still going to be here. Very sad. And I can only imagine what the people in Ukraine are going through and various other places where there are war zones. This is not something we as human beings uh, need to participate in order to solve problems because war, fighting, killing, destroying rarely solves anything. Today is the 11th of October 2024, and this video is entitled Big Government versus Small Government. I'm going to do another video later on about perception. And perception really is the name of the game, which is going to be the title of that video. And in my perception, in anybody's perception, if you're willing to expand it and to pay attention to it, in other words, to be the unbiased observer. It seems simple, it seems a very logical statement, but very few people can be unbiased observers. This is something we are to learn in order to counteract all the programming, the learned beliefs and the learned patterns of behavior that we have been indoctrinated with that cause us to act in a manner that prevents us from perceiving in an unbiased way, from observing in an unbiased way. So my observation over, well, certainly this year, I would say about a year, since the very least, the 7th of October 2023, which was the day the Holocaust occurred in southern Israel, when 1,200 to 1,400 people, Israelis were, and visitors from other countries were slaughtered. And I don't know, 300, 400, 500 hostages were taken. That was a bad day. And of course, Israel has now bombed the hell out of Gaza. And a lot of people who did not necessarily participate in that Holocaust were killed, were maimed, lost their homes. It's just very sad. But I do understand that when you are attacked, you fight back. I do understand that. But there's a whole story about that, which may actually demand its own video. What I want to talk about really is mainly that which refers to the United States of America. America really is quite an amazing country. A lot of good comes out of that country, and a lot of not so good, bad stuff comes out of that country. It's a melting pot. And I believe fervently, I really do believe this, that the United States of America represents to the rest of our humanity, our world, our planet, that which precipitates what our next experience is going to be. In other words, I liken America to being the keystone of an arch. It is the keystone in the middle that keeps the arch intact. And as soon as you remove the keystone, the arch collapses. And I feel that America has the opportunity to make huge positive changes and to demonstrate to the world a better way to live. And of course, there needs to be a lot of changing in America. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing a lot of shit stuff coming to the surface, which reminds me, the virtual image behind me. I'm going to lean over so that you can get a better view. It's not very clear, but it is a huge metal, iron, steel ball on a chain clamped to the ankles of this hapless person being dragged down into the depths of the ocean, obviously to be drowned. And this will become clear as to why I have chosen this image in a little while. So the signs are rapidly growing, according to my observation, indicating the ineffectual and redundancy, the ineffectiveness and redundancy of the big federal government of the USA. Why do I say this? Well, over the last 3.5, 4 years, the people of America have suffered greatly. I am not a party a person. I don't believe in parties. I am not party partisan. In my opinion, the left and the right are wings of the same bird. What I'm more interested in is what is occurring and how it can be resolved and improved, and how we are able to make positive changes. That's really it. But before we are able to make positive changes, we are to recognize that there is a problem, that there is something to change for the better. And unfortunately, and I'm getting a bit distracted here, I do apologize. Unfortunately, there is another element here, another video I'm going to make, which is called the 30-40-30 protocol, and that's coming out any day. 3 groups of people. And I don't want to go into that at the moment, but at the moment, we are seeing approximately 70% of the population taking down the rest of the people of the planet, taking down with this steel ball clamped to your ankles, dragging you down into the ocean. About 70% of the people in America are doing that, and 30% of the people are doing their very best to make positive changes and to improve things. Now, 30% doesn't really have any effect on the 70%. And the reason I am making these videos, and the reason all this shit that's floating to the surface with Epstein, with Steve Combs, P. Diddy, and what's going on in Hollywood, what's going on with the present government, and the natural disasters and how they are dealt with. All this is informing us that something very, very bad is happening. And if we don't wake up to the reality of what is happening, well, then America is going to go into the ocean depths and be drowned, finished with. And that'll be the end of that. And probably the world will follow. And it's goodbye, humanity. A few of the survivors will struggle on and end up in caves and, another few thousand, 10,000, 20,000 years, another cycle of the precession of the equinoxes, another yuga time cycle, and humanity will have another opportunity to improve their behavior, the way they think, the way they talk, the way they act. At the moment, it's not very good. So let me give you some examples. The main example I want to give you is the Helene hurricane that passed through Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, on the east coast of America. And unfortunately, unusually so, for a number of reasons, the higher altitude northwestern part of North Carolina were hit very badly, and there were floods, which is really amazing because we're talking about the average altitude of something like 400 meters, 500 meters, 600 meters. And it's got something to do with the rivers and the rain coming down the mountain and the dams, and there's a lot going on there. Uh, some people feel that it was artificially created using the climate controlled mechanism known as HAARP, HAARP, weapons. They've got all these incredibly sophisticated weapons that can just manifest or worsen a hurricane or a natural phenomena. They do all sorts of things. I don't have exact proof of this. I just have what I have been able to read, research, and it does look as if these technologies are available. And I'm saying this because I also read an article that North Carolina is rich in lithium, and lithium makes these batteries. And they may want to displace people in order to mine the lithium because it's a big operation to mine for lithium. I don't know if this is true. I'm just giving it to you as I have read the articles, heard the statements, and it may be true, it may not be true. It's for each of us to do our research and to find out. That may be a good reason why northwestern uh, uh, North Carolina was affected so badly. Maybe there is something more going on and they want to start creating big disturbance. Anyway, that's not the reason for this video. The disaster occurred, houses and communities were washed away, roads and communications were cut off, and people were without food, without water, without drainage, sewers, without medicines, especially those who suffer from diabetes, insulin. And nothing was heard from FEMA, the disaster uh, uh, protection agency of the federal government. Nothing was heard from them for 8 days. However, within hours, the private individuals, and there's a guy called SRP, Steve Sleptovich. He is a private individual who operates and helps people with disasters. I forget what SRP stands for. I think I wrote it down. No, I didn't write it down. Anyway, SRP. And he was there with his organization. And apparently his wife said, well, how are you going to fund this? Are you going to deal with this? Because it's all private, volunteer. And he said, you know what? I I saw him being interviewed. I've seen him before. He's a wonderful person. He says, you know what? We have to do this. We have to help save the people. And somehow I'm going to wing it and we'll find a way. And so they put a call out to private uh, pilots who have planes and helicopters. And he said it looked as if the sky was full of these flies, these wasps coming in to this airport in Asheville. There's a little airport there, the center of the disaster. And these were pilots. Some of them couldn't fly very well, certainly not in adverse conditions. Others were gung ho cowboys, as they said, and others were more experienced and professional, and they all had the same sentiment: let's help the people. And immediately, the private individuals just brought in all the donated food and donated medicines, and they were able to fly to these people and help them during the 7 crucial days during which FEMA was absent. They said, well, we can't help because we don't have any money. Of course, they didn't say that all their money or a lot of their money was spent on illegal immigrants, putting them up in housing and giving them money to fly around the country and not looking after the Americans. In fact, an American went to one of the offices that were giving this money out to the illegal immigrants, pretending to be an illegal immigrant, to see what was going on. And they said, "Oh, well, are you a permanent resident of America?" He said, "Well, yes, I am." "Oh, this is not for you then. This is only for the immigrants, the illegal immigrant." I don't think they use the word illegal, but this is not for you. So, in effect, Americans give the government their tax money, and instead of the tax money helping the Americans through hardship, the money is spent on illegal immigrants, illegal people, illegals who are not supposed to be here. I have seen so much of this. It's just astounding, disgusting, and this is what the government does. So here we have private individuals helping, and the government incapable, inadequate, inefficient, for whatever reason. And then a few weeks later, Milton hurricane came in from over the Yucatan through the Gulf of Mexico and hit just south of Tampa and knocked out the electricity. 3 million people were without power. It killed a few people, flooding and what have you. And Steve Slepčevič and his company organization SRP was there again. And he said he was right at the beginning. I mean, they knew the hurricane was on its way, so they prepared, you see. And what he said was astounding. He said alongside his people were all the state trucks and emergency services ready, waiting to help the people. And this was Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. And they were clearing up, fixing, helping people. The suffering was at a minimum, and nobody had to wait for FEMA. In fact, it was said, we don't need FEMA, we don't want FEMA. FEMA is a waste of time. It just causes a lot of trouble. Well, this impressed me because it illustrated to me quite categorically that big government is cumbersome, it is slow, and depending who your leaders are, the money will be usually ill spent and no good happens. The people are not looked after. The people who are paying the government to look after them are not doing the job. The people pay the money, the government is not doing the job. Now, they want a one world government, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum. They want one government. Can you imagine, using these few examples, what a one world government would do? We would be all dead. What I'm also seeing is that small government works under these circumstances in this way. Ron DeSantis, a state, not a federal government, had everything under control. Whereas North Carolina, they did not have anything under control. They were not prepared at all. And it's strange because it's not the first time that North Carolina has been subjected to hurricanes. But there was something very wrong with their leadership. The leadership of Florida is a wonderful example indicating what can happen with the right kind of leadership. So the people of Florida voted in Ron DeSantis, and hooray and yay for them. In North Carolina, not very good. And various other states, not very good. You cannot blame the leaders because they are who they are. You blame the people who elected them or allowed them to have that office. And if they are not doing the job, fire their asses. Get rid of them. Why wait 1 year, 2 years, 3 years until the end of office? By that time, they will have created untold damage. If you were working in a job and you screwed up, your boss will fire you. Why can't we fire the leaders we employ as citizens, paying the leaders, the government, the taxes, and they are working for us? Why can't we fire them? And if there is some reason why we cannot, change the law, because this is ridiculous. Now, what does this mean? It means that the people are to take responsibility for the reality that they are experiencing. What is the reality? Well, in North Carolina, their reality was incredible suffering. And the people paid the government their taxes, but relied on volunteer individual people to help them out. It doesn't make sense. When are you going to wake up? I'm getting passionate. Until enough people wake up and see what's going on and are willing to stand up and take responsibility, nothing is going to change. And if nothing is going to change, you might as well just go home, close the door, say goodnight, because that's the end of humanity. It doesn't have to be that way. We can change it. It starts with a choice. It continues with an intention. I've made all these videos with all this. And if there is some impediment within the person that, oh, I want to do this, but I don't know how, and I feel this, I feel that, and I've got, I feel limited. It's then do something to change it, because when we are limited, you see, when we are born, for the first 3 years, we are still connected to universal source, to creation. And this is when we develop our invisible friends and we are able to remember where we came from, our soul came from. And after about 3 years, we begin to forget and we become indoctrinated and programmed by our parents, by society, by the school system, by the medical system, by the government, and all this sort of rubbish. And by the time we get to 7 or 8 years of age, we're fully programmed. And all our previous knowledge has been forgotten. And for us to revert back to that innocent, knowing, knowledge, level of consciousness that would be the basis for us to make positive changes and to improve ourselves and to make wonderful decisions for the highest good, life-supporting decisions. We are to change the programming, and it's very easy to change the programming. Well, let me put it another way. It's not necessarily easy, but it is relatively easy. You can just get on with it. There are methods. There are systems. I talk about it all the time. There are many ways that we can do it, and you start the process, and it can be done, and it can be done far more quickly than how long it took us to become programmed. It may take you 7 or 8 years to become programmed. It could take us 6 months to become unprogrammed. That's what I mean by relatively easy. If you don't wish to make positive changes, you won't change. Forgive me for belaboring the point, but you know what? We're at a point now where it's virtually the point of no return. we're either going to do something, and we're very close, and then it's not necessary for me to make these videos anymore, because you know what? Fait accompli. It's done. At the moment, there is a chance. I'm hoping for a miracle, for more people to wake up and say, okay, let's work together. Let's work together. Now, that's a novel thought. Let's work together. What happened in North Carolina? They worked together and they achieved incredible things. When we don't work together, destruction. When we work together, construction. So let's have a choice and intention to work together. How do we do that? Let's talk about it, discuss it. That's the problem. Most people, I don't want to talk about it. It's too negative. It's too this. I don't want to talk about it. So what are you going to do? Just let other people run your life. There is an opportunity for human beings to make positive changes, life-supporting changes. And we can pull ourselves back, quite a number of us. There is a large portion of us that are not going to do that. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. The 30-40-30 protocol. Thank you for joining me on this road less traveled. And I kind of apologize for my passion. I'm passionate. I think it's fueled by the fact that we've got our backs up against a wall, and if we don't do something constructive soon, we're all dead. Or most of us. I think that's what it is. So let's do something. We're not dead yet. Thank you. Until the next time.